Hi guys, welcome back to another math lesson. I hope you had a good weekend. I've missed all of you very much. I tried to spend most of the time outside because it was so nice out. Today, in your math lesson, we are going to use angle relationships to solve problems. So you've learned about complementary and supplementary. We're going to learn one more type of relationship today. And then we're going to do some practice problems involving that relationship. So right now, you need to make sure you have your notebook handy, or if you don't have your notebook, have a piece of paper and a pencil. And you will need a calculator. If you don't have a calculator, that's okay. You can use the calculator on the computer. You can use your phone, whatever you have handy to solve some of these problems. Okay. So let's look at this new relationship today. So the relationship we are going to look at is created when you have two lines that cross each other. So you have a line going this way and a line going some other way. The relationship we're going to look at is between the angles, for example, this one and this one. Or we can look at the angles over here and over here. How do those relate to each other? So let's see here. What I would like you to do on your piece of paper or your notebook, I'd like you to make a grid with 4 boxes in it, similar to how you made it when we were going over complementary and supplementary. Okay, should look like this. Let me give you a second to do that and pause the video if you need more time. Okay, in that first box, first one on the left, I just want you to write vertical angles. Pause it if you need more time to write vertical angles. So the vertical angles are those angles that are across from each other, like I showed you on the picture that I drew before. Those vertical angles are the ones that cross each other. So what they are is they are a pair of opposites, so they're opposite each other, opposite angles made by intersecting lines. So in the next box next to vertical angles, write down that definition. Opposite, as long as you write opposite angles, you don't have to write that whole entire thing. Just so you know, they are opposite. The next thing I'd like to, so you should have your first 2 boxes on the top filled out. So you got vertical angles and they are opposite. The next thing I would like you to do is draw that picture there. So you have 2 lines that cross each other, right? If I'm looking at the ones that are opposite, so for example, B and B. So I'm going to draw in B and B. If I were to classify those angles, remember to classify them, you're thinking about, are they acute? Are they obtuse? Are they right? What types of angles are those at B and the other B? Think about it for a sec. They are obtuse angles, right? They're bigger than 90 degrees. And if you look closely, they actually look like the same exact size. Now, if I look at A and A, what types of angles are those? Think about it for a sec. Those are acute angles, and they look exactly the same. So these vertical angles are actually congruent to each other. That is the relationship. So in that 4th box, you can just put an equal sign. right? When we did supplementary, we put 180, they added up to 180. We did complementary, we put 90, they added up to 90. Here, they are actually equal to each other. They are equal to each other. Okay, let's look at the next one. You don't have to write anything down to this one, but if I'm looking at this one, now this one's a little more confusing because I have a lot of different angles going on. So the question is, which angle's vertical to EOF? EOF. We practiced naming angles in our first lesson about angles. So if I was going to look at EOF, okay, with the name, that's the one down here. So take a second and think about which one is vertical, which one is opposite to EOF. So here's EOF. Where am I going to go to opposite? Boom, up here. There. If I look at them, they're both acute angles. This is the one that's opposite. That's the one that's equal. If I was going to name it, I can name it BOC, or I can name it COB. In this case, the choice was there, BOC. Okay, the next thing I'd like you to do on the back of that paper is do 4 more. We're going to do 4 examples. The first one I'm going to do with you. The second one I'll give you a little bit of help, and then I would like you to try some on your own. So let's look at the first example. Okay, so I have my vertical angles here. You can tell they're opposite from each other and they look like they are the same exact size. Those are vertical angles. So I need to set up an equation. I need to set up an equation for these angles. When we did supplementary, we were doing the 2 angles, we were adding them together and equaling 180. That is not the relationship here. They don't add up to 180. If you remember what you wrote as your definition, we put they are equal to each other. Equal to each other. So I have 4x minus 25, and I'm going to set it equal to the other one, which is, 75. So that becomes a 2-step equation. So go ahead and write that as number 1 in your first box. 4x minus 25 equals 75. Okay, you guys are pretty experienced at doing 2-step equations. Think about what your first step would be in solving this. I know a lot of you like to draw the lines in like that, so you can do it on both sides. You can see what you do to both sides. So the first step would be to add 25 to both sides. I'm sorry, I lost my little pen for my computer, so my writing's not the best here. Okay, so on this side, I'd be left with 4x. This side, I would have 100. So think about what would be my second step then. My last step in this 2-step equation would be divide by 4. So if I'm solving for x, I would have x equals 100 divided by 4, which is 25. And you're talking about angles, so it's 25 degrees. If you don't have those steps written down, please pause it here so you can write down those steps. Okay. All right, let's look at the next one. So are the 2 angles right there, are they vertical angles? Think about that. Yes, they are. So how am I going to set up an equation for those angles? Okay, so these 2 angles are equal to each other. So 7x is the one angle equals 112. So this is just a 1-step equation. So when you have that 7 right next to the x, what do you have to do? And make sure you have that equation written down as number 2, your second box. So if the 7's next to the x, that's just a one-step equation. So I would have to divide by 7. So go ahead and get your calculator out. So I've got 112 divided by 7. You should get x equals 16 degrees. All right, moving on. I would like you to try this one on your own. See if you can write the equation. So label it number 3 for the third box. See if you can write that equation. You can press pause if you're still not done. Okay, so those are vertical angles. They are equal to each other. So I would write 2x plus 6 equals 96. So that is a two-step equation. See if you can do that on your own. You can pause the video. Okay, so the first step would have been subtract 6 on both sides. That would get you to 90. Second step would be divide by 2. So you should have had x equals 45 degrees. All right. Now I would like to review one that we did from yesterday just to make sure that is stuck in your brain also. So now when you see them like this, you're going to have to decide, is this a vertical relationship? Is it complementary or is it supplementary? So now that you've learned those 3 different types, you're going to have to make sure you can distinguish between them. So in this case, if I'm looking at these angles, are they opposite each other? Okay, no, they're not. They're right next to each other. If they're right next to each other and they make a straight line, what type of relationship did we say that was? Think about it for a second. Hopefully you remember that is a supplementary. So it is supplementary, we don't set them up equal to each other. Take a minute, pause the video, see if you can set up that relationship. Okay, so that equation should be 4x plus 40 plus 3x equals 180. Oops. Now, that equation can be simplified. So I have 4x and I have 3x. We know they go together. So I should have 7x plus 40 equals 180. Go ahead and see if you can solve for x. Pause the video right now. Okay, so my first step should have been subtract 40 from each side. That would get me to 140. Right? Second step, 140 divided by 7, it would get me 20 degrees. 20 degrees. Okay, thank you for testing out your vertical angle knowledge with me. I would like you to try the Flipgrid, or sorry, the GIM kit that I have posted, and see if you can practice some of those different problems of classifying which type of relationship exists, and then seeing if you can set up those equations. And I would also like you to post your Flipgrid as a response to this lesson and a reflection of how you think you're doing with it. Hope you have a great day.